Alright. Hi guys, it's the Pedantic Skeptic again. I am going to be now doing part 2 of my response to the Cornerstone Church's Apologetics session 34, Origins and Evolution part 1. So the video so far has gone into like the Big Bang and things about how the universe got started and kind of just some stuff that I'm not overly familiar with, but oh man, we're gonna now get into part 2 of my response to this part 1.
13.77 billion years, and it's 14.8, 13.77, where it talks about the inflation of the universe, which sort of expands out to what we see today. So I just wanted to show some of these diagrams. We got to George, but the first thing that I actually want to talk about is,
oh boy, the cosmological argument. Okay, how do we tackle this? Deep breaths. Hate the cosmological argument. So, whatever begins to exist has a cause. I would say, sure, I'll grant that. Now remember, so we're going to run into a problem with premise 2, but premise 1, whatever begins to exist has a cause. I'll grant that. Whatever starts existing has a cause. Premise 2, the universe began to exist. Now, here's the problem with that. You have to remember, God, I need some more coffee, Jesus. You have to remember that beginning is a temporal state. When something begins, it happens within a time frame. Time, if it began with the universe, means that the universe didn't ever begin to exist. For all of time, the universe has been here. And so, premise 2 fails because the universe did not begin to exist. The universe has always existed for as long as time has actually been a thing. Now, for premise 3, even if the universe had a cause, it doesn't get us to God. Now, again, I don't think the universe began to exist. I think in order to begin to exist, time has to be a thing. And because time was not a thing before the Big Bang Theory, we don't have this issue.
Is something called the cosmological argument. So this is something William Lane Craig pushes a lot, and I'm a big fan of William Lane Craig's debates. I don't agree with him on a number of theological and doctrinal issues, but
yes, I'm not surprised, but that's not necessarily relevant. Although I won't tell you what you can and can't say in your thing, but
I do like his the brilliance that he has around arguing for the reasonableness of faith in Christ and the
I do think the term reasonable faith is an oxymoron, but that's just me.
reasonableness of faith in God. And so this is a cosmological argument that
Get your shit out of there! No, I'm just kidding.
He pushes a lot, and I'm going to show you guys 2 videos around this argument that talks about both the sort of scientific reason why it's more believable or more reasonable to believe in a creator, and then also a philosophical argument.
Still doesn't get us to the Christian God, but hopefully he'll make the case for that as we go forth. But let's see what he's got for us.
For why it's more reasonable to believe in a creator. So the cosmological argument just has 3 simple parts. Everyone can remember this. Whatever begins to exist.
Technically, the cosmological argument has a 4th part, that the cause is God, which again, I don't know where the fuck people jump to that from. But, whatever.
Has a cause. We know this, right? So these are two premise. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. The
Yes.
universe began to exist. The Big Bang shows that the universe began to.
Didn't you say earlier that time began with the Big Bang? Again, the idea that the universe is eternal and the idea that the universe began at the Big Bang are not incompatible because time began at the Big Bang as well. Remember that time is just a measurement. Time is not a material thing. And beginnings are in the context of time. If time hadn't started yet, then neither had anything that started before time. Um, it has to be in the context of time.
Exist at a point in time. Therefore, the universe has a cause. Pretty simple argument. It's very difficult to refute that argument.
I just did. You know what? It's fine. It's fine. Let's just see.
Let's watch a video that talks a little bit about this particular argument and why it's. I hate the fact that I have to end the show, but and why it.
You do know you can embed videos into PowerPoints now, right? Well, he is working on a Mac. It looks like. I'm a Windows kind of person, so it's very possible that maybe on a. God damn it! You people are distracting me. Can you embed video in a PowerPoint? Yes, but on a Mac. According to this, you can. Yes. Okay. Hey, not that. Jesus Christ, where am I? Who the fuck is this dude? Session 44, focusing on. Anyways, this is from a few days ago, but, yeah, I don't know this guy's name. Maybe he introduced himself earlier. I can't remember, honestly. I'm not gonna scroll all the way back, but, dude, my dude, if you're really, like, this guy's just, like, doesn't, and I don't want to criticize somebody for not being good at using PowerPoint, but Jesus Christ. There is a very handy, thing here on how to embed a YouTube video. There's a YouTube video of how to embed a YouTube video into a PowerPoint on your MacBook. So, maybe check that out, okay? Okay, I have one notification. Oh, just, okay, whatever, it's fine. Okay.
It's more reasonable to believe this argument. I guess it's not a link.
There is also a way to insert links, but you know what? You know what? I have bigger fish to fry. I'm gonna stay calm. I'm gonna be okay. Let's just.
I'm gonna have to
Ooh, holy cow.
turn my video
Is my phone charged up yet? Almost.
Boldly go. Boldly go.
Does God exist?
Probably not.
Or is the material universe all that is, or ever was, or ever will be? One approach to answering this question is the cosmological argument. It goes like this. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause.
I mean, I want to know, does this video offer anything new to what this guy just said, or is he just wasting our time?
Is the first premise true?
Yes.
Let's consider. Believing that something can pop into existence without a cause is more of a stretch than believing in magic.
Funny you should mention.
At least with magic, you've got a hat and a magician. And if something can come into being from nothing, then why don't we see this happening all?
So there's a lot of the conservation of mass, but one of the objections to abiogenesis specifically has to do with why aren't we seeing life forms popping into existence from nothing all the time? And I have an explanation for that, but maybe I'll save it for when they actually talk about the origins of life. But that might be in the next, in their part two, because these people like to lump evolution and abiogenesis and other shit like that together. Um, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they don't know it's the same thing, but at the same time, I feel like if you're going to argue against a science that is pretty well established at this point, you should at least understand it. But, that's neither here nor there. Let's just keep going here.
All the time. No, everyday experience and scientific evidence confirm our first premise. If something begins to exist, it must have a cause.
Chaheckin. Although I think that's a rooster, but you know what? It's fine.
But what about our second premise? Did the universe begin?
It depends on, again, it didn't begin in a typical sense because time didn't exist.
Or has it always existed?
It's always existed for as long as time has been a thing, so functionally, yes, it's always existed.
Atheists have typically said that the universe has been here forever. The universe is just there, and that's all.
I mean, this lady or this man, whoever the narrator is, whoever the fuck this narrator is, quotes one atheist and says that this is what all atheists say. That's a little unfair because I am, not saying that every Christian on earth is like this dude here, but, you know, just saying.
First, let's consider the second law of thermodynamics.
These visuals are really distracting.
It tells us the universe is slowly running out of usable energy.
That depends on what you mean by that, because the net energy of the universe is zero, it just jumps all over the fucking place.
And that's the point. If the universe had been here forever, it would have run out of usable energy by now. The second law points us to a universe that has a definite beginning.
I like the reflection of these people, really need to, do a workout group. Jesus.
This is further confirmed by a series of remarkable scientific discoveries.
Oh boy, I wonder what they're calling remarkable.
In 1915, Albert Einstein presented his general theory of relativity.
Okay, so?
This allowed us, for the first time, to talk meaningfully about the past history of the universe.
I think that actual equation is outdated at this point, but I can't remember. I'm not a physicist.
Next, Alexander Friedman and George Lemaitre, each working with Einstein's equations, predicted that the universe is expanding.
Good for the universe.
Then in 1929, Edwin Hubble measured the red shift in light from distant galaxies. This empirical evidence confirmed not only that the universe is expanding, but that it sprang into being from a single point in the finite past.
Okay, but look, time is within that. Time began, okay?
It was a monumental discovery, almost beyond comprehension. However, not everyone is fond of a finite universe, so it wasn't long before alternative models popped into existence.
Oh yes, the oscillating model.
But one by one, these models failed to stand the test of time.
I feel like there's a pun in there somewhere.
More recently, three leading cosmologists, Arvin Bohr, Alan Guth, and Alexander Vilenkin, proved that any universe...
Actually. Okay, first of all, in science we don't say prove, but, let me just look up some of these peeps. Theoretical physicist. Okay, let's see. Cosmic inflation. Okay. Let's see. He talked about the grand unified theory that had been developed and how it explains the huge amount of matter compared. You know what? I'm not worried about that. That's funny. That's really funny. So let's see, what were they saying? In 2003. Alright, let's look up this, Valinkin guy. Let's see. I think this is what they're talking about here. Okay. Deduces that any universe has on average been expanding throughout its history. Cannot be infinite, but have a past space-time boundary. I think that's saying that it is beyond time, but, you know. Yeah, I don't understand where, or, like, what some of this stuff means. This is, I'm not a physicist. I don't know really jack shit about physics.
Which has on average been expanding
Although, yeah, you have to take into consideration the on average part.
throughout its history, cannot be eternal in the past, but must have an absolute beginning.
Actually, let me just go back to this. Okay. So, their wording here is different from the actual wording of the theory. That's probably important. Um, yeah, like, I don't know what, let's see. Let me just click this for a sec. Space-time, I'm just trying to see. Okay, well, time is a sequence of existence, and if existence wasn't a thing at some point, then obviously, this is still, consistent with the universe being eternal, because the universe has existed since time has been a thing. Time began to exist just like the universe.
This even applies to the multiverse, if there is such a thing.
Yes.
This means that scientists can no longer hide behind a past eternal universe.
It depends on how you're defining eternal. Again,
There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. Any adequate model must have a beginning, just like the standard.
again, look, How do these people not see that they are demonstrating my point precisely? That time had a beginning. Okay? So, and again, I'm meaning that time started at some point. So did the universe. If they started together, then the universe has been here for all of time, which means it's eternal.
Model. It's quite plausible then that both premises of the argument are true. This means that the conclusion is also true. The universe has a cause. And since the universe can't cause itself, its cause must be beyond the space-time universe.
Although every natural thing that we know has a natural cause, why would the universe be any different? If I give birth to a baby, which I'm not going to do, but if I were to give birth to a baby and that baby's life started, then am I like suddenly a supernatural being? Jesus Christ, people.
It must be spaceless, timeless,
To add to that, I mean,
immaterial.
the thing is, nothing else that begins to exist has spaceless, timeless, immaterial,
Uncaused,
uncaused causes.
and unimaginably powerful.
I mean, like, this is just a weird implication. If something supernatural is required for something natural to come into existence, then does that mean every time one of us creates something else, we become supernatural?
Much like God. The cosmological argument shows that, in fact, it is quite reasonable to believe that God does exist.
It's not reasonable to believe that at all. Stop coughing, Mr. COVID.
So I thought that it was way better to show that video than to try to describe that video.
No, it wasn't.
There's another video that I'm going to show that talks more about the philosophical arguments, but I thought it was interesting, and we're going to talk a little bit about timelessness.
Okay.
But spaceless, timeless, immaterial, uncaused, and unimaginably powerful. Right? So for the universe to have been created, it had to be created by something that's outside of the universe.
It's still not making sense to me. You're assuming that the universe was created in the first place.
That's so funny, Matt, because I think that's very close to the definition of Aristotle's immovable mover.
Yes, unmovable. Yep.
Way before these guys.
Yes, way before these guys. I don't know that any of us are actually reinventing a lot of these arguments. I'm going to apologize ahead of time for the next video, and the reason I'm going to apologize is because this one actually made my brain hurt.
I don't know why they're...
And so I think it might make your brain hurt as well, because it talks a little bit about the sort of...
A little Monty Python reference.
Yes. So this one is going to talk a bit about the philosophical reasons why believing in an eternal universe or believing in infinity is a little bit ridiculous.
Did the universe have a beginning?
It depends.
Or has it existed from eternity past?
I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm just not.
If it did have a beginning, this raises a question. Did the universe have a creator? In part 1, we explored this question scientifically. Now let's look at it philosophically. Aristotle believed the universe was eternal in the past, but Al-Ghazali disagreed. He pointed out that if the universe did not have a beginning, then the number of past events in the history of the universe is infinite.
So, yeah, okay. I'm not immediately seeing a problem with that, but...
But that's a problem, because the existence of an actually infinite number of past events leads to absurdity.
I mean, I think there's like 1,000 thought that time is just a loop, but that's also not something we need to worry about.
Metaphysically impossible. Why? The mathematician David Hilbert illustrates the problem by imagining a hotel with an infinite number of rooms, all of which are occupied. There's not a single vacancy. Every room in the infinite hotel is full. Now suppose a new guest shows up and asks for a room. The manager says, sure, no problem. Then moves the guest who was in room number 1 to room number 2, and the guest who was in room number 2 to room number 3, and so on to infinity. As a result of this shuffling, room number 1 becomes vacant, and the new guest happily checks in, even though all the rooms were already full, and nobody has checked out.
So in this analogy, you are being a little flawed because the idea, you can't have infinite rooms being filled, but even if that were the case, there's no need for the people to not check out.
And it gets even more absurd. Suppose an infinity of new guests show up at the front desk. No problem, says the manager. Then she moves each person into a room with a number twice that of his own room. So the person who was in room number 1 moves into room number 2. The person who was in 2 moves to 4. The person who was in 3 moves to 6, and so on. Since any number multiplied by 2 is always an even number, all the odd-numbered rooms become vacant, and the infinity of new guests gratefully check in. And yet, before they arrived, all the rooms were already full.
Okay.
It gets even crazier when the guests start to check out.
You just said they're not checking out.
Suppose all the guests in odd-numbered rooms check out. In that case, an infinite number of people have left the hotel. And yet, there are no fewer people in the hotel.
I feel like they're treating infinity like it's a number when it's not.
But suppose instead, all the guests in rooms numbered 4 and above check out. In that
I don't see how this is funny, but that's just me.
case, only 3 people are left. And yet exactly the same number of people left the hotel this time as when all the odd-numbered guests checked out. Thus we have a contradiction. We subtract identical quantities from identical quantities.
Because it's infinity, it's not actually a quantity.
And get different answers. These absurdities show that an actually infinite number of things cannot exist in the real world.
Well, it's a good thing that time had a starting point as well, isn't it?
Here is a second argument Ghazali offers against a past eternal universe. Suppose that for every 1 orbit Saturn completes around the Sun, Jupiter completes 2. The longer they orbit, the further Saturn falls behind. Now, what if these 2 planets have always been orbiting the Sun from eternity past? Which has completed the most orbit? Strangely enough, the number of their orbits is exactly the same, infinity. But that seems absurd, for the
No, it's not, because the orbits are independent of one another.
longer they orbit, the greater the difference becomes. If the universe has always existed, then an infinite series of past events has been formed by adding one event after another. It's like a sequence of dominoes, falling one after another until the last domino, today, is reached. The problem is that the final domino could never fall.
So the problem that I'm noticing here is people are conflating infinite with eternal. They're not the same thing. Eternal requires time, okay, in order to actually be a thing. Eternal requires the passage of time. If time hasn't been passing, then something isn't eternal.
If an infinite number of dominoes had to fall first. So today could never be reached. But obviously, here we are. It's today. So the number of events leading up to today could not possibly be infinite.
No. Could be eternal, but not infinite.
The infinite is nowhere to be
We
found.
found in reality. It neither exists in nature, nor provides a legitimate basis for rational thought. The role that remains for the infinite to play
Is solely that of an idea. What objections might be raised to these arguments? Some people object that, unlike the rooms in Hilbert's hotel, the events of the past don't all exist at the same time.
Sure.
But we can easily tweak the story to get rid of this objection. Suppose the hotel has been under construction from eternity past.
Well, the other thing is their hotel has the guests not checking out, which implies that these past events are no longer past events, they're present events, because if they are eternal or infinitely timed, then they aren't in the past. It's a contradiction.
One room being added each year. How many rooms would there now be in the hotel? An actual infinite number. So if the past is infinite, that would imply that Hilbert's hotel could exist, which is absurd. Others have objected that an actually infinite number of things do exist, namely numbers and other mathematical entities. However,
I don't believe that, anything real is actually infinite.
this objection presupposes that numbers really exist.
I just said that. What is that too supposed to be made out of, like fucking ramen or a carpet? Never mind.
But this is a highly disputed assumption that most philosophers reject. So if Ghazali's two arguments are right, then the universe is not eternal in the past. It must have a beginning.
Again, they're conflating eternality with infinity or infiniteness, whatever.
And we know intuitively that whatever begins to exist requires a cause
You should not rely on your intuition for that sort of thing. Common sense is not very common.
of its existence. Thus, we are led to conclude that the universe has a cause of its existence. So what caused the universe? Atheist Daniel Dennett says,
Okay. It doesn't matter if he's an atheist. Especially when it comes to something science related. Okay? You're poisoning the well here.
the universe caused itself. But this is incoherent, because in order to cause itself to come into existence, the universe would have to exist before it existed.
But if time hasn't always existed, then it's perfectly fine that the universe hasn't always existed.
The cause of the universe must therefore be outside of the universe.
Okay, then what about the cause of your creator God?
Spaceless, timeless, immaterial, and enormously powerful. Much like God.
Okay, so now we have a Bible verse. We know that's a biased video.
Absolutely.
Alright, does your brain hurt?
No, I'm a little ticked off that I've just wasted several minutes watching that, but that's, it is what it is.
My brain hurts. Thinking about infinity. So, thinking about actual infinity is actually difficult. So,
Again, infinity versus eternality.
in this one, you have to think about an infinite amount of time, right? If there's an infinite amount of time in the past,
Didn't you just talk about time beginning with the Big Bang Theory?
then we couldn't possibly get to today because the past would go on forever, right? And so you can't really think about infinity. Infinity is not like a real thing; it's more of a concept.
I agree with that.
And so that brought up the question for me: has God existed for all time? Is
No.
God infinite, right? So how can God be infinite if infinity can't really exist?
In our world.
So this brings up the question: does God experience time? And if so, how does he experience time? So in the cosmological argument, we said that the cause of the universe must be timeless. So what does timelessness mean? And so there's an article, actually, believe it or not, there's something called the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. And it talks about some of the views of God and time. I don't know the source of where this encyclopedia comes from, but the arguments I found compelling. So this is the view that they posited for timelessness. Did I put that in here? No, I didn't. Okay. And it says the claim.
Nitpick, but like, can't they like present this again so that we don't have to look at it? Like, I just don't like watching a PowerPoint where you see like all the other slides on the side. Like, it's just kind of ruins the surprise of what the next slide is going to be for me.
Claim that God is timeless is a denial.
Dude, you're not even on the. You know what? You know what? It's fine. It's fine.
Of the claim that God is temporal, right? So timeless meaning outside of time versus temporal meaning inside of time. First, God exists, but does not exist at any temporal location. So no
Then explain the Bible. You know, never mind.
position in time. Rather than holding that God is everlastingly eternal, and therefore he exists at each time, this position is that God exists, but he does not exist at any time at all.
Okay.
God is beyond time altogether. It could be said that although God does not exist at any time, God exists at eternity.
But eternity is within the concept of time.
This would be the idea of eternity being a position outside of time.
Eternity is within the construct of time.
So eternity is not meaning forever. It's meaning this is saying that eternity is a place, right? That is outside of time. So that is eternity can be seen as a non-temporal location, as any point in time is a temporal location. Second, it is thought that God does not experience temporal succession. So this is things happening one
Again, explain the stories of the Bible.
after another. God's relation to each event in a temporal sequence is the same as his relation to any other event. God does not experience the first century before he experiences the 21st century. Both of these centuries are experienced by God in one timeless now. So while it is true that in the 13th century Aquinas prayed for understanding and received it, God's response to his prayer is not something that also occurred in that century. God, in his timeless state of
To us it is.
being, heard Aquinas' prayer and answered them. He did not first hear them and then answered them. He heard and answered in one timeless moment. In fact,
Did you just say timeless moment? That's another oxymoron.
he did so at the same timeless moment that he hears and answers the prayers offered in the 21st century.
Stop saying timeless moment, please. Okay, you know what? Everybody take a shot every time it says timeless moment. Got my peanut butter whiskey, because I like peanut butter whiskey, motherfuckers.
So the way I kind of envision this, has anybody seen the Minority Report?
No.
Right? So you know that they had like the hologram, and they could like view time, and they could swipe their hand, and they could scroll forward, and they could scroll backwards, right? And they could kind of
cool.
see. I kind of think of God being outside of time and able to kind of like just scroll back and forth to see any point in time. This is a very primitive view, but it's a way to kind of envision God as being something that's outside of time. Time is something we
All right.
experience. It's something God created.
Okay. I'm going to stop there. It's almost 7 o'clock here. I'm going to watch a live stream in just a few moments. And I am going to then go ahead and, while I'm watching that, or at least listening in on that live stream, feed some critters and make some tissue culture medium and stuff like that. I may get this whole thing done tonight, because what I'll maybe end up doing is going to autoclave my stuff, and that takes a while. I need to run 2 autoclave cycles, one for the medium, which will take about an hour. It's a 30-minute sterilization, but it takes a little while for the autoclave to get up to the heat and pressure required. An autoclave is like a giant steam oven or a giant pressure cooker, basically. I gotta autoclave my medium, then I gotta autoclave my tools and water and stuff. I do that for an hour, so it's about an hour and 20-ish minute cycle. So it's a slightly longer cycle. So I'll be stuck on campus for quite some time tonight. If I decide to do the autoclaving tonight, which I probably should. So, I should be able in rapid succession to get these, videos out there. So, I hope that, you all are enjoying this. I'm not, but that's okay. It's all good. We're all fine. Thank you for tuning in. If you like, subscribe, comment, whatever, good. All good stuff. Till the next one.